Hello, it is me, King Jiffy Codes. Time to talk to you about Assassin's Creed Chronicles Russia. Jeez, what a mouthful. Need vodka just to push that down. But hit, I cannot do. I must do video. I must do video on terrible game. And actually, I'm gonna stop with the Russian voice. I know you were digging it. I know it was your vibe. But anymore, I'm gonna start sounding real cringe. But yeah, I remember when this game came out, and it was on my Xbox Live Gold when that was a thing, and I downloaded it, and it sat in my video game library for a very long time. Well, in my deep dive for content through my game library, I was like, what is this? When did I get this Assassin's Creed? Because I had the Ezio collection, and I was like, oh, they made a Russian Assassin's Creed? And lo and behold, I was so disappointed in the game I began to play. This game reminds me of that old mobile game that Microsoft came out for the mobile, like phones and stuff. It was like Spartan Team Assault and Spartan Strike, real original names, but they were basically twin stick shooters. Back when they were still trying to break that mobile industry, because games like Angry Birds and stuff were taking the scene by storm, so a lot of companies were trying to take some of their famous IPs, move them over to mobile, and do it in a different way, because they couldn't port the full game there, so they had to figure out how to monetize this previously unmonetizable zone. Due to phones finally getting enough compute power to actually be able to run games like Flappy Bird and whatever the king one is, Candy Crush. But when I played this game back when Xbox Live Gold gave it to me, I was like, oh, this must be a mobile tie-in game. But how much surprise I had when I found out it was not on phones. I was absolutely bewildered. I was flustered. My nipples were inverting. They were confusion, you know what I mean? And I just didn't understand what the point of this game was at that point. Because if it would have been a mobile cash grab type game, oh, I get it. At least you put in a solid effort. I mean, just like Spartan Team Assault. Is it a fantastic game? No. But was it a decent game for the time and place it was on mobile phones? I would say yes. I mean, it was a decent twin-stick shooter. And this isn't a bad 2.5D side-scroller. I mean, I hate these type of games just because I always get bored in side-scrollers really fast. It's not the game's problem itself. But the problem with this game is right away that I thought it was a mobile game is right when you get into these shooting sections. You see, every once in a while, which is weird for an Assassin's Creed game, you get into a sniper section. You know those sniper games your dad plays on the couch because they're the only ones he downloaded on his phone? That's exactly what this feels like. I mean, even the controls are weird on console. You have to use the bumpers. Yeah, either RB and LB or L1 R1 to shoot the gun. You zoom in with L1 or LB, and then you shoot with the other one. I'm just not going to say the both control systems, but yeah, it's just stupid. It seems goofy, clunky, and it doesn't make any sense. I mean, the only way this would make sense is if this was a port of a mobile game, but it's not. So I sit in this situation, and when you're playing the regular game, you use the triggers to run and shit. But when you're locked into sniper sections, you can't use the regular triggers. No. That makes absolutely no sense. And as even an Assassin's Creed game, it doesn't even play well. I mean, it has some stealthy stuff, and you do some assassin type stuff, but it just doesn't make sense. When I look at Assassin's Creed, right, I think open world, moving around your targets, really assessing the area. This game, you just kind of do it, I guess. It's not really, it doesn't give you any freedom. I mean, you got some gadgets and stuff that give you the illusion of freedom, but you're really just pushed along this zone. And when you get to when I look at what it could have been, right? If they wouldn't have made a smaller style game, which is what I think they were going for here, why didn't they just do something like Prince of Persia, make it a linear experience, scrap the open world thing? Because at this point, I felt like they just threw out 3 cash grabs, because that's right, there's 2 more of these games. There's India and China. And instead of just making a tight single player experience that actually utilizes the mechanics that are fun in Assassin's Creed, no, these games are just platformers with really crappy shooting, with really crappy combat mechanics, and it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't feel like Assassin's Creed ever. And I really just, when I look at the scores for this game, because it's not a bad made game, let's get that out of the way. It is a solidly developed game. The problem is it just doesn't fit in with the rest of the games in the series. Well, maybe now, because who knows what the fuck Assassin's Creed is now. I wouldn't be surprised if the next Assassin's Creed game is just a hentai simulator at this point. It's like, oh, the assassins are now fucking squids, and they take the Japanese women and they put their tentacles up her pussy, and then take the other tentacles and slap some clit. I mean, that's kind of what Assassin's Creed is going toward at this point. No one knows what they're doing. I mean, the last game, Mirage, kind of was a callback, but instead of being a callback with improved mechanics, it was just a shitty imitation. It was an imitation of the greatness that they had. And so when I look back at these games, I thought it was a telltale sign that Ubisoft had no fucking clue what they were going to do with the Assassin's Creed game, and they were just putting placeholders in. I mean, it's not wrong for a genre to, like, expand its horizons and try new things. Like, I brought up Halo before. I mean, Halo Wars 1 and 2 are considered great RTS games, but they don't ever, like, try to make it feel like they're the mainline games. They are the spin-offs. And I guess they threw Chronicles on here to make you like, to differentiate from the fact that it's not a regular Assassin's Creed game. But to me, when I saw Chronicles the first time when I first opened this game up, and luckily I didn't buy it, or I would have been fucking furious when I was given it for free. I mean, I was just like, oh, I'm disappointed, but I'm not, like, mad. It was one of those that it's like, when I see Chronicles, I'm like, oh, it's going to be a short, linear type experience. I didn't expect it to be a 2.5D side-scroller from the genre that, like, innovated open-world design and freedom of, like, I don't know, freedom. It was just freedom. The Assassin's Creed games, or Creed games, really came in during a time of let you do what the fuck you want to do, and then these games just, like, force you into, like, at most 3 directions. Most of the time it's back and forward, and every once in a while you'll get to go, like, sideways, and you're like, whoa, fucking sideways? You're gonna tell me I can go sideways? That's crazy, man. And I mean, when you even look at, like, the shooting, it just feels like a weird, like, I don't know, because, like, well, getting back onto my point before with, like, Halo, they realized right away that the mobile thing, those games didn't really succeed. They pulled them off of the App Store, which I wish they wouldn't have done, because I'm big on video game preservation, but one of them's still on Game Pass, and they still throw some shine its way, but that was about as much experimentation as it did. Assassin's Creed is, like, gone 472 different directions, that it's a shell of what it formerly was, and it was all in the guise of, like, pushing this IP as far as it could go. Halo was just like, okay, well, you're going to be a part of this different sector, or this different thing that's still, like, contributed to the world. And I mean, Assassin's Creed kind of did that, but it was never, like, a dedicated process, right? Because, like, the Halo Wars game were, like, deep in the lore, tying into the books. I mean, Assassin's Creed is just like, well, here's another fucking game, and enjoy, I guess. And if you don't enjoy it, well, we're happy sitting at a 60, because that's where a lot of our games end up. And this seems to be a running thing when it comes to Ubisoft and their IPs. It seems like they just kind of shoehorn shit into other shit. I mean, how far have they stretched the Tom Clancy name? Now, when they first got Tom Clancy to sign off on their games, he had to sign off on all the stories because he wanted to make story-driven games, kind of like he'd seen with Medal of Honor and stuff. And while he was still alive, every Tom Clancy labeled game had a deep story, deep espionage, all the cool military stuff you would expect. Once he died, they just started slapping it on multiplayer games with a gun. They were like, it has a gun, might as well slap Tom Clancy on there. And people make the argument all the time for Rainbow Six Siege, well, it's still a tactical game. It's like, it doesn't matter. Tom Clancy was a guy about the story, about the narrative, and now we're just slapping his shit on everything. It's just kind of Ubisoft's go-to at this point, and it really makes me sad. And I feel like this era right here, when these games came out, were a great example of this. It was just, instead of porting their old games and stuff to back on the thing, or giving their stuff like some brevity and trying like maybe a more linear experience, they're like, no, we'll just throw a 2D side scroller out there and people will just suck our slop down. I mean, it's like the Weekend Gangbang. They're just gonna drink as much as they possibly can handle. I don't know, guys. This one was just kind of a slap in the face to me, and it just kind of puts a damper on what Assassin's Creed was to what it's become today. It just keeps getting worse, and I think it all started with these games, or maybe not
started with these games, but around this time is when the shift started to happen. And I'm seeing it still to this day. Ubisoft do the same thing. What do they have coming out for the Prince of Persia? A side scroller. We haven't gotten a new Prince of Persia game in like 10 years, and where they're like, well, we'll just throw a side scroller there. Well, wait, they'll suck that down. It just because they haven't seen the IP in a while. And I feel like that's disingenuous to the old games and to the brand and to the whole IP as a whole, instead of just releasing like a remaster of the old game or like a new entry to the series. They just throw out a side scroller just to make some fans happy. And to me that's fucked. I mean, if Halo came back out and instead of it being like a FPS game or like a new Halo Wars entry, because that is established series, instead of it being like they did a mainline Halo, but it was one of the twin stick style shooters they made for mobile, everyone would be furious. They'd be up in the rafters. But because Ubisoft is just already just looked down upon and they can't fuck up any harder, when people see the Prince of Persia game, they're like, well, that kind of looks interesting to me. It doesn't look interesting to me. It just seems like Ubisoft shoveling out shit. And I know that you're going to be like, well, the developers worked really hard on it. That's fine, but you can have if you're going to make a game that's completely different than the original style games, at least, differentiate it. Just make it its own new thing. I don't understand why we're just still stuck on, trying to, force these old IPs down your throat through nostalgia, but not actually giving us what we're nostalgic for. But at the end of the day, guys, I feel like the Assassin's Creed Chronicles games were just a sad imitation. But let me know in the comments below, did you like these games? Did you hate them? What is your thoughts on them? And subscribe to my channel because I got more juicy stuff coming your way, and you better get on your knees and accept it. Catch you later.